Hey y'all, this is Culture Soup, where tech, culture, and business collide. It's a podcast that spoons up everything hot from social media. I'm your host, L. Michelle Smith, and each episode we bring you some of the most notable and not yet notable thought leaders in tech, business, and culture. If you've ever sat in a corporate marketing department or corporate communications, you come across a variety of agencies and agency types. It's fair to say that they are not all created equally. Now, I, for one, have always treated my agency partners like they were team members. Perhaps it confused my team members that I treated them so well. But as an extension of my team, I felt getting complete buy-in from my agency teams meant that the work product would be even better. Morale is better. I don't believe in treating agency partners like slaves or people who are supposed to do my bidding. All that to be said, I respect smart agency people. I used to be one for about 20 of my years before I went into corporate, owning my own, and then working for about 3 different global agencies. So I have a perspective on how agency teams should be, agency leadership should be, and how we should interact. And I always made it a point not to be the evil client. That being said, when I meet agency people who are extra smart and extra buttoned up, they get my attention immediately and I let them know. That's the case with Eshena Roman and Roy Broderick. Roy and Eshena have a high touch when it comes to client management and client interaction. They're also very, very smart. The first time I met Roy was in the lobby at some Miami hotel for Black Enterprise Women of Power. And he was there at the check-in desk with my registration, my conference badge, my conference bag, and instructions on everything I needed to know the minute I walked through the door. Blown away. I loved working with Roy. Eshena always had some insights-driven strategy that made sense from top to bottom. It's probably why I've stayed in contact with the two of them. And if you've met them, you know they're a lot of fun. So without further ado, it's time to meet them. Roy Broderick and Eshena Roman, co-founders of Intuition, Atlanta, Georgia. When did I first meet y'all? Was it 2016?
2014.
Yeah, 2014. Yeah.
Okay, so I came in 2013 to AT&T. And
Yep. And I want to say if it wasn't NFC, it was BET. Might have been the first time when we first did the BET experience.
I had never been to BET.
For her.
See, I think it was.
Was it?
I think it was.
Was it Women of Power?
No, because I knew you before Women of Power.
We just didn't get to meet you.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
We hadn't met you.
Yeah.
So over the phone, maybe. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So 2014, 15, something like that.
I was like, I just remember when you came on the line, like, oh, who is this lady? She knows what she's talking about.
Yes.
She get us all the way together.
Look, it isn't always like that. They bring these agencies to the table, and I'm like,
I appreciate that. We were on the line, like, yes, get us together, honey, get us together.
I remember saying, yeah, no, that's not gonna work. So,
no. Exactly. everybody. I'm so excited to bring on two of my friends, Roy Broderick and Eshena Roman from Intuition Consulting.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for joining the Culture Soup podcast
thank
today.
you.
We're
excited.
excited.
Yeah. So what have you guys been working on recently?
Oh, Lord. We're consultants, so that means we do a little bit of everything. We do everything from working with some of our small business clients who are, we have a great client who actually has a beautiful spa here in the Atlanta area and has also a product line that's about to go into a national retailer. So getting her ready for that.
Wow.
Complete excellent. Kind of rebranding work. Also working most recently with the Dallas Mavericks and helping them come up with an approach for their African American Heritage Night and how they really are celebrating culture through fandom and sport. So we dabble in a little bit of everything. So
awesome. So if you were going to tell me what your core business is, what do you offer? Strategy
is definitely it. That sounds kind of foolish to say that we're an agency that specializes in strategy, but it's really about like how are we identifying audience, how are we, and how are we segmenting even within the segment to really micro target to be able to trigger them to have some sort of conversion, whether that be follow or purchase decision. Also, just once we've identified audience, what is the messaging that we need to get out there? How are we crafting that messaging in a way that resonates with them? And then how do we put it out there? What tactics are we going to deploy? What channels are we going to tap into? That's really what we work with our brands and even some of our small business clients on strategy.
Excellent. Well, before we go forward, I want to go in and have a Culture Soup moment with you guys. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. So, going through the threads, looking at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. Gosh, I think this term has been around for a while, but I think we have to credit our LGBTQ of color friends for coming up with it, but I see everybody using it, and typically when they want to tell somebody to, go girl, or something like that, they use the hashtag work, W-E-R-K. And when I see that, I think of you guys in Intuition because you know what? You guys have been in business for a very short amount of time and you are getting it. So when I think about Roy and Eshena, I say work. What do you think about when you see that hashtag?
Yes, for me, I think that it's about exactly what you mentioned, like go for it. It is I say all the time, there's, one thing about working when you're hammering away, but when you working it and you're killing it, that is when that comes to mind. And so for us, we just love to see Black people win, LGBT people win. And, being a member of both communities, I, love it to really pay homage to my sisters and brothers to say, let's work, let's
I love it. Well, and you know what? Performance excellence has been something that I harp on all the time because you can't be authentic in anybody's corporation or workspace if you have not kicked down the door with your awesome performance, right? Yeah. But this is what I know you guys for since, 2014, 15, since probably the first time we got on the phone together. And just so everybody knows how we know each other, I was working at AT&T at the time when you guys were contracted through diversity marketing, right?
Yep, that's right.
But I got to tell you, every time you guys touched any project, you gave the high touch. The first thing I knew, if I got on site at an activation, Roy was standing there like he was the concierge at the hotel. Making sure I had my room, my bag. He'd already checked me into my registration, like immaculate service. Yes. And that's what I think about when I think about you guys.
Oh, well, good.
Yes,
it could be worse.
Exactly. And I tell people that all the time, like, for us, customer service and client service is our number one thing in intuition. I want you to get a full intuition experience and really be able to scream from the mountaintop that it was amazing. And if you can't do that, then we have not made our mark. And so we really stand by that with our work.
Yeah, and I think it's also, for us, it's a quality control thing too, that from top to bottom, that you had a really kind of consistent experience. Consistency is key, that you were dealing with the same person, and they gave you the same energy, no matter if it was on the phone or in person or on site for an experience. So that's something that's really important to us to communicate. So you know what you get, the circumstance. And that helps to alleviate a lot of concerns as a client, especially as a brand. Like, I don't always have a direct touch point to this thing, but I'm trusting you to be able to ensure that my clients, my customers, my consumers are going to have a great experience. And that's what we hope to afford you by feeling comfortable, with us.
And you know what? You guys, you were working for another company at the time, but it didn't matter. It was brand Roy and brand Eshena. I loved it because, in this very highly matrix organization where we found ourselves, you guys had direct client contacts, but you had all of these little feelers out for all the other touch points, including myself. So you weren't exactly my agency, but I sure felt like it.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to do. For me, it was always, hey, how can I connect these other folks? There are a lot of folks that work at, AT&T. How do I connect these other bad but Black women?
You didn't say ass on the culture suit. We'll take that. We don't beep that one out.
Bosses, right? B-O $, killing it. How can I connect them to each other, right? Because you're all in one place. You're fabulous. Do you know this person? Oh, yeah, I know her. I haven't met her before. Okay, girl, come on. Here she is. Hey, meet, because I think that's what you need when you are the one burning the midnight oil, kicking butt in your business unit. You got to know that sister or that brother that you have, that Black other employee or colleague that you have that you can call on, that you can be like, girl, listen. Or y'all can just give each other the look, right? Because we all are in a society where Black folks are the culture. We set the culture. We set the trend. And I think our white folks and Caucasians are starting to finally get it, but still are tiptoeing around our genius. So.
But you know what? They know it. They know it. And it's funny when you use that Nielsen stat that says Black culture drives pop culture, their eyes just light up because they're like, oh, yeah, because that commercial, they were playing Motown. I get it, I mean, they get it. But sometimes it just takes the data. You have to share the data. Have you found that?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, especially when you're dealing with, say, a huge company like, say, an AT&T, where, in as much as they know anecdotally this might be something that would be attractive, you have to validate the spend with the number, right? You always, so in as much as this might be hot, I can't make an investment in hot because hot is temporary. Hot is not sustainable.
Right.
So how are we creating, strategies that are driven by insights, that are driven by data? And which is why we always look back to strategy for us, because we get so annoyed when someone's like, oh, what would be cool? Like, yeah, you know what? You're right. It would be cool. However, what does the data tell us?
Yes.
This is going to be an effective option, because I can't ask you to spend $1 million because something's hot.
You know what? I'm so glad you said that. Let me tell you why. Because I have been on the line with quote unquote multicultural practitioners in communications, PR, advertising, whatever. And I am still amazed at how many people would get on the phone and say, you know what? I think we should do X, Y, and Z because it feels right. I see that around the corner in my neighborhood, or whatever they have to say. Or, gee, I saw this article and it resonated with me. Let's build a program around it. I'm like, wait, boo. We need some numbers. Exactly. Are you seeing that? Or are people really honing their craft and digging in? Because we're in this totally different realm now.
Do you want the real answer?
Yeah, I want the real answer. Break it down.
Having a real conversation.
Think,
Yes, this is real.
One thing I recently have, started to voice is this idea of, I'm seeing it is, I don't think it's just African American women, but I'm seeing it when a marketing practitioner is in a role, they're in a marketing organization, and they start to do things because they think they're the segment, or they forget that, hey, it's not about you, right? I'm talking about millennials, and boo-boo, you don't really fit that, right?
Exactly.
So, or they'll say, my kid's like this, so it's this. And I'm like, but kids could not be who we're trying to reach. And so we're trying to guide people back to those facts and those figures in the research. But it's really like breaking bad habits. And it's really also them fighting against like their personal brand and the brand that pays their bills, right? So always like there has to be that balance. But if you ground everything you're doing in strategy and research, then you're covered, right? Versus just being like, my child knows what Blavity is, so
let's go spend with them, right?
You know what I mean? It's like, no, I'm sorry, that's not the right channel for that person.
This is going to be controversial, but I think agencies get known for doing a certain kind of thing, and it's easier to just throw out something because they know it'll make a good Instagram photo, or we like this artist, and this artist is hot right now, so let's plug and play them, and it's very easy for brands, especially brands that are trying to build affinity with a segment like AA, LGBTQ, to just be like, oh, well, they said that that's what we should be doing, so let's go with it. But there always has to be strategic insight that drives that. There's amazing ideas. There's really awesome, hot, cool things to do, but it has to be more than just tactics. And that's something that we always get stuck on, even in our own practice and with our own people that we work with. Like, okay, that sounds cool, but you're just giving me tactics right now.
Right.
Tactics, let's talk about what's our core message. Let's identify that first. And then see whether or not that really aligns with who we're targeting, and then drive it home with the data. We can't just do it because it's hot, because I can't build ROI because the validation is hot. Like,
totally.
I need more than that.
Have you seen, and this isn't just with multicultural marketers, but even quote unquote general market marketers, which I tremble at, because if you're still calling it general market based on what the demographic data is right now, you're about to kill off your brand, right? Because we know that the mass market is multicultural. That being said, do you see brands just throwing celebrities at things? Skylar Ezel, who's a good friend and colleague, calls it celebrity gumbo. Yep. Do you see that a lot?
Yeah, it's like, you get a partnership, you get a social, you get a check, and it's like,
everybody gets a check.
Everybody gets a check. They all showed up, and we all were there. And I'm like, okay, great.
And what did it do for you?
And what did it mean? Right.
Even if you get high impressions, what happens after that? So a lot of people saw it, but did that mean that now that increased purchase consideration?
Right.
Did you see your followers grow? Did you see in-store traffic increase? Like, what did it result in? And
did you even get any loyalty from that influencer?
Exactly.
The influencer themselves, right?
Right.
Because, all my influencers, I say, get your check, right? Get your check. But really what folks are looking for is that true brand partnership, right? More than this one night stand or this one event appearance. What else can we be doing? Can I be helping develop content? Can I do some advertorial things with you? Really use me for my genius versus just saying, hey, I need you to put this up on your Instagram and pop up at my event or sing a song or something.
Well, and you know what? Isn't there, there's a way to start to organically build that relationship with that influencer, especially if you understand what that influencer likes, what their passions are. And then they start to voluntarily give you more than even what you ask. Eva Green Wilson was like episode 5 or 6, something like that, on the Culture Soup. Happens to be a girlfriend of mine, but she's Soca Mom. She's a blogger.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, and you guys might have worked with her too.
Yeah, yes, I remember her. Absolutely.
Yes. There were times when we would just bring her ideas, but we were pushing those cultural nuances with her to get her so excited about it that she always over-delivered, working with Flowers Communications Group, right? So a great example of that was when we told her, hey, we're going to have some executives up at Howard University. Okay, first cultural nuance. She's like a recent grad of Howard Law. So she got excited about that. And we're like, but we want you to tell your story of your parents and how they immigrated over here as Caribbean Americans. And that just like put her over the top.
Yeah.
And she ended up doing like a 2 or 3 part mini documentary series for us when we had only asked for maybe 3 tweets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's part of just, you hit the nail on the head. Ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about what else do they need. Any type of partnership should have mutual benefit. So yes, you're coming to the table saying, hey, I need you to do 1, 2, and 3. But ask them what their interests are. And that's a lot of the work that we do. Anytime someone calls us, whether it's a celebrity or an influencer, we usually have a personal relationship with them. So I'm not only able to get you a cheaper rate, but I'm also able to tell you, like, you know what, girl, she's not really going to go for that. Here are the areas she's trying to get into. Maybe we can think about that. So when you go to them with that first ask, it can make sense. And that lets them put their guard down, but also makes them understand you want to build a relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's really important for people, for brands and companies to have people who are really savvy and really know who's hot for what out there, because you have instances where, I forget the name of the young actor who is one of the co-stars of Blackish. I think his name is Luke Sabat, a fashionable one, the one who has the locks in it, where he was actually recently sued by Snapchat because he was supposed to be premiering those goggles, those sunglasses, and he shared a post or 2, but it didn't result in the turnover that he essentially promised as the engagement.
They sued him?
Yes.
Dang.
So that's even why it's more important for agencies or partners to really work with influencers, work with celebrities that truly align with what that brand's objectives are. Because I think people are they're like, hey, I just cut you a check for $100,000. I'm not doing that just for fun. I need you to really make sure this feels organic to you so that you can bring your halo, can kind of highlight what we're doing as well.
Well, and we're in a totally different age with influencers and bloggers than we were, say, even 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Where 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you had folks like Afrobella and Lovey who were breaking through, right? Yeah. And you had a lot of other micro bloggers or influencers that were just kind of coming along. And I feel like sometimes marketers are stuck in 5 years ago, because when they start to see the prices of a Lovey or an Afrobella come back to them, they get this sticker shock, like, and I'm like, well, have you been following? She is not, she has blown the F up.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Bestseller. Like this.
Yes. Do you feel that brands sometimes get stuck in a time warp? Or maybe they just don't understand that these influencers are growing their brands at such a rapid rate?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I think the other piece is that brands never have felt comfortable understanding that they might not run a conversation. So in that piece, when you have a Lovey, right, who's a dear friend of mine, who will say,
my
price, right, exactly. My price is my price, right? This is what it is. Mm-hmm. I don't think brands can really understand that because they don't recognize that they're running a business, right? They think that, oh, she's still at home doing this, just between whatever else she's doing, and not really understanding that the growth has happened. And I think you see the same thing, Michelle, even in like sponsorships.
It's true.
Same thing over and over and over. And then when it's time for renewal and their property's like, here's the new price tag, they're like, what? And it's like,
exactly.
Been there for 5 years, hon. Like,
yeah. And you know what? I've seen this year over year as well. And I've warned, my teams or whomever, when I come back this year, it's going to look a little different.
Exactly.
Because there was this TED Talk, there was this, there was that, there was this book, there was that. And
yeah, and I think
absolutely.
Sometimes, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I still think there's a discounting of multicultural and LGBTQ voices that they really feel like if Kendall Jenner said, I wanted $250,000 for this post, that sounds absolutely correct. But
no questions asked.
No questions asked, even though, to me, you asked me, is quite exorbitant. But, if someone who may have, when you start breaking it down, following and the rate, they're like, whoa, wait a minute, that's a lot of money, So unfortunately, I still think there is that undercurrent of really not lending the true value of the power of that person's voice because they may be multicultural, they may be a member of the LGBTQ community.
I've seen that, and there have been times when, okay, maybe this person didn't have 1 million followers, but maybe they had 10,000 and about 500 of them were like influencers and celebs, like off the chain. And it was that influence the influencer type positioning that they had, that whatever little algorithm, the client might have been crunching, it just doesn't seem like she has enough reach. Are you kidding me?
To move away from vanity metrics, like the number of followers doesn't mean anything if the engagement is low. You have some micro influencers, the term where somebody only has 25,000 followers, but those 25,000 followers are engaged in every single post. They're sharing, they're commenting, they're answering that call to action. So 25,000, but they're going to show results. You're going to see something happen as a result of that, as opposed to someone who may have 2.5 million and it just goes into the black space of Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. So let's shift gears for a second. Black Renaissance. And y'all be real with me, okay? Because we've been throwing around this term for probably the last 3 or 4 years. We are in a black... Yes. Okay. So there's one school of thought that says, entrepreneurs, tech startups, creators, they're having this renewal in creativity and even building businesses, and black people are thriving in ways that they haven't before. Then there's another school of thought that says, you know what? The internet enabled a lot of it, but I think it probably just unveiled the creativity and innovation that the black community already had. So we have a heightened sense of it, but we've been in this renaissance for years. Which do you agree with, or is it somewhere in the middle?
For me, it's kind of in the middle, because the one thing, I can't wait to see what you're going to say.
I know, that look.
For me, I feel like we've always been the genius. We've always set the trend. We've always worked our ass off more than anyone else. So it kind of like, the second one, I think, yes, the internet has helped optimize or amplify what we've been doing. But I also say the internet has, in a way, made entrepreneurship sexy again. So you have this trend of, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an extrapreneur, I'm a doerpreneur, I'm a brandpreneur, all these things. And it's like, okay, like, because, I mean, what I tell people all day is that, like, entrepreneurship is hard, I say that all the time. Like, this is, when people make this decision to really do it, it is not as glamorous as you see, right?
It's not as sexy.
And nor will you see, my bad days on Instagram when a deal falls through. I'm not going to be on my story like, oh, the goodness, what happened? No. Like, so,
Right.
So I think it's, for me, somewhere in the middle for that reason. But what you want to say?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a combination of all those things. I've said before, creativity is, kind of African American superpower. Like, we have found a way to get it done in spite of just insurmountable circumstances. Part of that is entrepreneurship. Maybe it didn't look like me having a website, and maybe it didn't look like me having a coaching business, but it looked like, the lady down the street that baked pies, or the family that always had kids over that weren't always there, but they watched them all day. And then you broke them off a little change at the end of the week for watching them. You know, those are the things that have allowed us to thrive. We've always had kind of like a cottage industry and ingrained in us as a means of economic growth. So if anything, it's more formalized, I would say. And more discussed, more known. I don't think there is no new boom that the internet necessarily enabled. If anything, it's like, okay, well now it's an easy way for me to get this LLC, so I'll formally do it. And I think it's also economic as well. One thing that we have seen is while, African American economic power, buying power has grown, our stance as in the economy hasn't. We've actually kind of gone, there has been little true growth in economic power for African Americans. And I think that as a result of that, we've had to be that much more forward to say, okay, great, how are we going to get it done? Because I did all the things, I got all the skills, but I'm still not making enough money for my family. I'm still overburdened with these. And now we have things like me and Roy, our generation, where our parents are not quite there, but they're at retirement age. How are we supplementing what their needs are? We may have children or nieces and nephews that we then have to think about. How are we helping the whole family as a unit to create economic power? So there is that incentive. Really think about investing, creating new business opportunities, having a regular job and a side hustle that is making all of that come to the forefront. But it really ain't nothing new. We just have the means to talk about it and share on it.
Yeah. So you guys took the leap into entrepreneurship almost 3 years ago. Tell me how you came to that conclusion to do that and take that leap, and what's that been like for you?
So I'll start. I honestly just got sick of making money for white people. Like that's now I'm comfortable saying it that way. But I got sick of it. I mean, we really we're at a great place and did a lot of growth there. And then just we would always talk about this idea of we could do this better, we could change this. And so we started to pour more and more of ourselves into it. And then we realized that it just was never going to happen there. And so, I was like, all right, I'm out, cash talks. So, I'm coming up for my review. I'm not getting what I want, even though you're saying I'm thriving, but you don't really see my worth. So I left, and then Eshena left shortly after me. I went into a job at Allstate as a marketing director, the worst job of my life, because it was boring. And
I know when you told me you were doing that, I was like, doesn't seem like a match.
The coin was the motive at the time. But the point is to breathe. But really, it put me in a place to really think about what I want my legacy to be, what were my gifts and my strengths, and it empowered me to say, let me create something for my community. Because when Intuition was first born, we only worked with small to mid-sized businesses. Because I come from a family of entrepreneurs. They were successful in their own right, but nobody broke $1 million, right? And so it wasn't like a huge company. And so once I started to dive deep into kind of my purpose, what I wanted to do every day, I quit that job, started this company, and then 8 months afterwards, was on the phone with my homie, who's been my homie for a while. And I never forget this conversation because it was so passionate. I was talking to her about growth and where I was with the agency. And I'm like, yeah, girl, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm like, but it just didn't. But then I meet like all my brand folks. So like you, Michelle, right? All my contacts. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm starting an agency. However, I don't work with brands, and just very siloed. And she was like, F that. You can do it. Why just didn't get small?
Yes.
You started a small business to stay small. Just really started to pour into me and pull in strings. And so I said, if you think we can do that, then come on. Because, I can't do this alone. And so she came on and, since then, it's been exponential growth. And I say it's nothing but God, because really, this has been a journey, right? Every day, every week has been the same. Intuition has grown past my own thoughts and understanding of what I hoped for it to do. It did that in the first year. In the first year, we hit over 6 figures, by myself.
That's great.
So it's like really thinking about that this was nothing but God. And so we keep that to our core.
Yeah.
What you want to
I think for me,
that's awesome.
It was almost counterintuitive because I really started thinking about it more after I had my son. I thought about me having that conversation with him about, that all parents hopefully have with their children. Like, you can be anything you want to be, baby. Don't limit yourself. You can do it. You are capable of all things. And then really having that kind of come to Jesus moment with myself and be like, but have I really lived that? I really proven that to be true for my own self. And feeling kind of almost convicted to be like, wow, how can I have this conversation with my son, telling him and encouraging him to do all the things that he has dreamed to do. And I haven't necessarily really done that for myself. I haven't taken the risk to do that. And, because there had been a time before when I considered entrepreneurship, and it was funny because, God clearly knew maybe I wasn't quite ready. And I got a job offer right around the time when I was really thinking about formalizing that. And I ran after that job like, yes, check. Thank you.
I will take the man's money.
Yes, Lord. But you know what? It was perfect timing because I literally found out I was pregnant with my son a week after I started my job. And I met this guy on that.
Oh,
it's just interesting how God ordered your steps, because had I not taken advantage of it, who's to say what would have happened? But, when I got to a place where, I remember that conversation too, I was hyped. I was jumping around the living room like, we gonna do this, man, And I really was like, you know what? Take a chance on you. No one care about this work. No one cares about the people that you are trying to target, who you're trying to celebrate more than you. Not any other company that you work for, especially one that doesn't necessarily see talking to this segment any more than just a line item. So let's do that. Let's bring that celebration. Let's bring that passion and the expertise and business acumen. Let's join it all together and really build this up.
Well, and I talk about authenticity all the time, and the paradox of the double outsider as Black women bringing our full self to corporate America. It's tough. And it ain't always absolutely something you can do. And that's something that I've been grappling with, because it's just not my whole self as a Black woman. It's my whole self in the way I think strategically. I'm a huge, big thinker. And, I can't dumb it down. I have to bring all of me. Otherwise, I'm not happy. How does it feel as an entrepreneur to walk into that space every day and be you no matter?
Yeah, that's something that we demand from our team, right? Demand everyone show up in their full self, right? I make a joke all the time, like, you never know what I'm gonna wear, right? We'll meet in and this is my dresses and my suited and my booted friend. We'll give you all the corporate tea that you need. With the rainbow sequin kimono, like, are we ready? And you never know what you're gonna get. But I really want people to live in that, right? That's the last thing you should have to worry about when you walk into your job, about what kind of code switching do I have to do? Or is my idea too big for me to share? No, demand they respect your genius. If they don't, F them. Go somewhere where someone can appreciate that. Or as I say, step down and plan before you step out, right? Because some bullshit, don't believe that. But I think that there's a way in really doing it, and that feeling. So for me, every day I love it. I demand it from the team. And we always say, it should not be suffocated. It should be celebrated, right? Your differences and how you show up in that. So.
Yeah. Freeing. It feels freeing. That really is it. I think, Michelle, as a Black woman, it can be tough sometimes, because there is the patriarchy that you're dealing with. Like, how am I speaking to this male figure? Like, does he feel like I'm being, aggressive? I've definitely heard those kind of terms, and I'm like, now if my name was Jim and I was, would you take what I'm saying as aggressive, or a little bit, they're a little bit intimidated, and you're like, why? Because I know what I know, and I'm sharing this with you. Like, why is that a problem? So it can sometimes feel stifling and suffocating. And, I have my moments where even I'll talk to Roy like, oh man, I don't have this ready. All I have is jeans. And he's like, and you work for yourself. Like, what
exactly.
What are you talking about? So I have my own moments where I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. Like, I'm a boss. Let me put on what I'm going to put on today.
Well, it's convicting too, because we carry the message of clients that are all talking the talk of diversity and inclusion, and we're saying, oh yeah, bring your whole self to work. And if we can't live that ourselves, we got some soul searching to do.
Yeah. But it's hard to unlearn. It is really hard to unlearn, especially like, I think Roy can agree, like in my background, when you are a young, talented kid, special kid, all those labels, you get into these accelerated programs. There is a formula that they teach you. Like, this is how you dress. This is how you talk. These are the programs that you get into. These are the Greek organizations that you should be interested in. These are the colleges that you go to. This is the church you attend. So it's not just even about being an African American. Within the African American community, there very much is like a script that sometimes you follow. So it takes time to unlearn and really come to terms with like, no, this is my authentic self. This is who I am. This is where I'm greatest at, when I just am genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, for me, having run an agency, I did for 10 years myself, and being out there and discovering my entrepreneurial self, because I kind of fell into it. I was not even trying. It just happened, and I just ran with it. And then flipping the script and coming back to corporate, back to a global agency first, and then going to corporate. I planned on being unapologetic from jump, right? And I was just going to blaze through. At some point I was wearing my big old fro. I talked about my nose ring in the last episode. But yeah, I did all of that knowing that I was being as excellent as I possibly could. But then I started to realize that there were times when the little blowback that never really came to you, that came through other people, was associated with all these different tropes. And I also understood that it wasn't just the white people. In some cases, white people would call them BS, right? But it could be your own people. It could be Latinos. It could be, Asians, whoever, that have bought into that corporate power structure, and then turn and look at the black woman and say, well, gee whiz, is she really supposed to be speaking up that way? And you have to question that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's something that, you deal with, and even in our roles, quite being all the way real, and I'm expressing this, he's going to have a problem because I'm spilling our tea right now. But I even find,
look at this.
I find that those dynamics exist even when we're working with other brand partners, our contacts. He's laughing because he knows what I'm talking about. Like, we just know that category of our client is going to deal with you. They're not going to deal with me.
You have to do
certain
that.
kind of dynamic that they're accustomed to, that they respond better with. And, that's kind of the tiptoe that you do in the business, is like, how much do you kind of force people to come into what your standard practice is, what your culture is, and how much do you yield to them to make them feel comfortable and understanding that there are certain clients, you're the contact, certain clients, I'm the contact. It just is what it is. And that's how we kind of do that balance of, let me honor you where you're at, but I'm also going to force you to adjust a little bit by being in our greater culture. But I respect that you might take a little longer to get there. So you talk to that person or you talk to me. Yeah.
So anything Intuition's working on right now that's exciting that you can talk about?
Yeah, I would say our National Museum of African American Music client, they are scheduled to open next year, so we're super excited about that.
Where is that? Atlanta?
No, it's in Nashville, Tennessee. It's
cool.
56,000 square feet of museum space that's going to chronologically tell the story of how we, African Americans, influence music across all the genres. It is going to be amazing, and they've been our client for quite some time, and so we are planning our second year of their annual Legends Gala, which happens May 30th. And so that's exciting because we always get to honor true living Black legacies through music. And they've just been a great client to have because it's, when you think about legacy and projects that you're like, I'm glad I worked on this. This is definitely one of those for us. It feels good. It aligns with all of our 3 core pillars, which are community, purpose, and culture for us as an agency. And so that's right now what we are kind of heads down doing, and then preparing for their grand opening as well, which is like freaking amazing because I'm like, how the hell do you open a museum?
Yeah. And seeing it from the ground up, because we started working with them before they even broke ground. So to really see it all the way through, it's like watching your baby finally grow up, and really exciting.
That's amazing. So where can people find information about Intuition?
You can check out our website, intuitionatl.com. We're also on all social channels as Intuition ATL, or on LinkedIn as Intuition Consulting Firm.
Yep, and you can email us. So you can email team, TAM, at intuitionatl.com as well, and a member of the team will get back with you.
Excellent. And how can we follow you guys personally?
Yeah, so my handles, it's so funny when I have to say this. My handle is Royalty, so ROYALITE.
Own it, honey, own it.
It's Eshena, so ITSESHENA. You can look at all the things that I do, which is really deal with my son. I'm definitely like a mom blogger in my
I love it
because
he's precious.
Yeah, thank you. He's such an important part of the journey. But and being a mom business lady is one of the most difficult assignments I've ever had. So yeah, it's Eshena.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much for coming on. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
I just want to say thank you to you, and I'm just proud of you, and I want you to continue. Just continue. If you need a pep talk, you can call me. You have both my.
Oh, I appreciate that. I
just want to say thank you, and this has been great, and we definitely have to get back on here when you need us.
Yes. Thank you so much. We enjoy you always, and we really appreciate this. We had a blast.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Bye-bye. Excellent. Thank you, Roy and Eshena. Everybody, we have a 30-minute mentor free masterclass happening today, 7 o'clock tonight. So make sure that you register. Go to the 30minutementor.com. It's all about authenticity, and it's called Authenticity 101. I hope to see you in the virtual space. Also coming up, we have a conversation with the CEO of Denny's Restaurants, John Miller. Yeah, you want to talk to him because he has a lot going on with his brand around culture and technology that maybe you didn't know. Find out more about The Culture Soup at theculturesoup.com. Find us on Instagram and Twitter at The Culture Soup. And you know what? See you next week. The Culture Soup Podcast is a production of No Silos Communication.